Hey, it's 9 o'clock IST on World Mental Health Day. It's Urvashi. Thank you for joining. I will be talking to Siddhartha Mallya today. I'm so excited. Been following his work for such a long time. I'm going to add him in a second. Just to give you some things that we're going to do today, we will take questions in the comments. I will not be addressing any trolls if there are any. Please exit now. I will not be reading any of those comments, but if you have a genuine question, I will take it. If I do miss your question, sorry. We are, of course, talking about Siddhartha's book, If I'm Honest, which is available on Amazon. All those links will be in the description. So now, without further ado, I'm adding Siddhartha, who's there with Duke, I see.
Duke wanted to come and say hello to everyone before we
Hi,
started.
Duke.
So here he is.
I've been a big fan of him also from your
And
Instagram.
he wants you to all know that he was the one who actually wrote the book, and he's very upset that I put my name on the cover and not his.
Is he in the acknowledgements? I didn't. Yeah, he is in the
Of course, he's
acknowledgements.
in the acknowledgements. Yes.
Yeah.
He's very
He
much
should
in
have
the
been a
acknowledgements.
co-author, but at least he was in the acknowledgements. I'm going to be super
Yeah.
distracted if Duke is sitting with you the
I'm
whole
not going to
time.
let him go. He's going to go. He wanted to just
No,
say
I mean,
hello.
that's okay. I'm very happy to just interview Duke and you can sort of fade
I
into the
can be the
background.
voice for sure.
Yeah. Thanks.
First,
You've done
before,
enough, Sid.
of course,
Bye.
we're
This is
done.
an interview
Thanks.
with Duke now.
Uh, do you can you hear me fine? I've got headphones in, so if that's
Yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, it's good. All right.
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you for doing this. I can
Of
see that your
course.
schedule has been insane. Thank you for making the time.
No, of course. You know what? Thank you for reaching out, because I think that it's important to have these sorts of conversations, and
Yeah.
any chance I can to kind of meet new people like yourself who are also big in promoting the good message around mental health. It's an
Yeah.
honor for me. So thank you for
Oh,
reaching out.
thank you. But yeah, I've been following your work for such a long time, and to be fully honest, I expected the book to be like some other books around mental health that I've read. I expected it to be sort of clinical in the sense that, oh, this is what I did in therapy and this is what I learned, and you should try it too, which is what the other books I've read have been like. But I was so touched by your honesty, and you've talked about some really personal things, which
Oh, thank
is
you.
it's hard for the average person to do. And I have like a small following, and it still feels very difficult sometimes
Mm,
to talk about things that are personal, especially with family relationships and all of that.
yeah.
So thank you for your honesty. It's so much more than I expected it to be.
No, that's very sweet of you to say. And actually, on that, there's a funny thing, because I I obviously started writing the book with Westland, who've been
Hmm.
great to me. And what I was fortunate about from Westland is they kind of gave me a blank slate and said, "Go and do what you want, and tell the story any way you want to." And I was very fortunate by that. That I had great editors and I had a publisher who let me tell what I wanted to tell. They didn't try and shape
Yeah.
me. But it's funny, because I showed it to a publishing house in the US, and they said what you just said. They said, actually, the market is looking for these kind of, if you like, clinical books right now. The Deepak Chopras and the Jay Shetties and the kind of those sorts of books. And they said, well, would you like to turn it
Yeah.
into that? And I said, look, this is not that. This is not a self-help book. This is not the Sid Mallya way to happiness. In fact, what I've learned is that most of the time people aren't looking for help, right? They just want to know
Yeah.
that they're not alone. And I think that my biggest contribution in this field could be just by sharing my own stories. And I feel like, rather than telling you, if you do this, your life will get better, it's about saying, hey, I went through this. So if you're going through the same thing, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
And I think one of the it's such a chicken and egg problem, because one of the things that depression especially will tell you is that you are alone and that you're the problem, and that you can't ask someone else, and you can't admit that you have an issue, because it makes you think that, but actually what you need is to break out of that cycle. So it's so hard to take a step out of your own mind and know that you aren't everything that your brain is telling you are, if
For
that makes
sure,
sense.
yeah. And I think I absolutely, and I think that, our minds, and we can talk about that in a minute, because I've wanted to speak about this, but like our minds and our brains, they tell us things based on conditioning, right? I mean, we're conditioned to think a certain way, and most of the time that's conditioned from society and the way we're brought up and upbringing. And in most cultures, and it's even more prevalent in India, that mental health is just not something that was ever talked about. And it's not still, it's great that we're doing things like today and we're talking about it. And if you don't mind me asking, how old are you, Urvashi?
I'm 30.
You're 30, so I'm 34. Okay, so roughly the same age, not too much of a difference. But I know certainly for me growing up, there was no talk about mental health, right? And therefore, if we today at our age are suffering from something, it's only sort of natural that our brain are going to go to that place, which is like, well, this isn't right. And hopefully by having more chats like we're having today, this younger generation, you can change the narrative. So when they do go through depression, the first thought that the mind gives them is not, oh my God, you're on your own. It's, oh my God, there's a lot of support for you out there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we'll get there at some point. I don't think it's there
it's
yet.
A process. No. I think everything's a process. Like I think if you see any kind of movement, right, any movement in history, whatever it's been, if it's been religious movements, equality movements, gender movement, any movement hasn't happened overnight.
Yeah,
it's been, and you know what, we might not see the results in our lifetime. We may not. But we at least have to do our part to put the wheels in motion for the next generation to ensure that conversations like you and me are having are the norm, as opposed to them being things out of the ordinary.
Yeah, absolutely. I just have to say that I resonated with so much in your book. So I'm trying to make sure that this interview is not just me saying, yes, same to everything that you say.
No, please. And like,
so much of it was similar because I studied something else. I was groomed to be a part of the family business. I chose not to work with my dad. I've become an actor now. I grew up with a decent amount of privilege, and I felt really guilty. Like I was in this really high paying job in Atlanta, and on the outside I had everything, but on the inside only I know that I was like feeling completely dead inside. And so much of what you've said about the guilt around your privilege and around the access that you had, I feel like there's two completely polarized views about mental health or other mental illness. One is that it's a thing that rich people can afford to have, and at the same time it's also like, how can you be depressed when you have everything? Somehow those two things exist at the same time.
Yeah, it's and it's a very dangerous view. I wrote about this. I'll give myself a little plug. If anyone's there and read today's HT brunch, I actually wrote a piece on this, which was the title is it a privilege problem? And one of the key messages I try to get across in my book is that, let's be honest, mental health, not just depression, mental health in general, does not discriminate.
Yeah.
It doesn't care if you're male, female, rich, poor, Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, African, American, Indian, Chinese, Australian. It does not discriminate. And every single one of us is susceptible from suffering from issues of mental health. So to think that it's only a rich person's problem causes two issues in my mind. Number one is, for someone who may not come from privilege and they go through depression or any other mental condition, they might think, oh, well, I don't have the means to come out of this. There's no hope for me.
Yeah.
On the other side, if you are someone who comes from privilege, or like yourself or me, comes from a background that's perceived as privilege, well, if we go through something, then we can start telling ourselves, well, hang on a second, we don't have the right to feel the way we do. And in either situation, that thinking is dangerous, because then it will stop the person from seeking adequate help. And I get it. I get why people say that it's a rich person's problem. Like, look, therapy and medication are not options for everyone. I know that, and it's expensive, and it's not an option for everyone, especially in a country like India.
Yeah.
But I think what we've got to remember is that those are just two avenues. There are a multitude of different ways to help yourself beyond just therapy and medication. Things as simple as going for a walk, going for a run, doing yoga, doing meditation, getting a workbook to work through online. Now, these are things that are available to people at very minimal cost, or for free, right? Like for free, literally.
Yeah, walking is in fact free.
It doesn't cost you anything. So when you start making excuses, there really is a lot of things available to us if we're willing to look for them that
Yeah.
don't cost anything. Even things like look at my book. I was joking with my mum, not that my book is a self-help book, but you can get workbooks probably around the same price point as my book. My book is cheaper than a McDonald's Happy Meal. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like when people ask
Yeah.
me, they're like, "Oh, you're going to make money off your book?" I'm like, probably not. But
Yeah.
my point being is that there are so many avenues available to us beyond just therapy and medication, and you just have to be willing to look.
Yeah. But I also feel like the flip side to that, or rather, my view is there are sometimes people who will try to problem solve for you, and say that all you need is a walk. It's not that you can replace therapy and medication with a walk. It's that a walk will help you a little bit, but it's not the same as, because I've been told, and maybe this is just my experience, that, oh, you don't really have a problem. You just need to take a nap or you just need to go for a walk. And that also is a dangerous place to come
No,
from.
absolutely. And I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
I'm saying what
I
I'm
know, I
saying
know.
is that there are other methods to use. On that point
Yeah.
though,
It's a
problem solving.
method. Yeah.
Yeah. I think problem solving, look, here's the thing. It's, you get in a car, right? And you need to go to a certain location. You put in the GPS and you know the fastest route possible. That's, let's say in therapy, let's say in mental health, getting to where you want to be is therapy. But for
Yeah.
whatever reason, there's roadworks happening on that route today, and you can't take that
Yeah.
road. There's 20 other routes to get to where you want to do. It might be
Yeah.
a slightly bumpier terrain. It might take you an
Yeah.
extra half an hour to get there, but you can still get to where you want to go. There are always other avenues available. And to
Yeah.
all the people who try and throw away comments like, "Oh, you just need a walk. What do you have to be depressed about?" Like, I know I'm probably not meant to swear on this thing, so I'll try
No,
not
no,
to.
go
But
for it. Go for it.
all I would say is remember 3 words: fuck that noise. Like, people will always try and be experts, right? No one is an expert. Don't ever let anyone ever try and tell you that what you're going through isn't valid. There's enough people out there who will try and be like, "Oh, what do you have to be depressed about?
Yeah.
It's okay. You're just in a bro mood. Have a sleep. You'll feel better tomorrow." Fuck
Yeah.
that noise. It's the best thing you can do for people. And this goes the other way as well. If people want to come to you and talk to you, the best advice you can give people is to keep your mouth shut and your ears open and just listen to them. Be like, "I'm here for you if you need me. I'm not here to try
Yeah.
and fix you, but just talk to me."
Absolutely. If I ever write a memoir, can I call it "Fuck That Noise"?
Oh, I think
Inspired by a conversation with Sid.
I think that's gonna be my second one. But maybe we'll co-author one together.
Excellent. Excellent. I am ready for that. I have inadvertently, like, in the same color palette as your book. I just realized
Oh, nice.
that happened by mistake.
My favorite color. So that's why it's orange.
Yeah, but actually speaking of the fastest route to get there and things like that, you mentioned in the book that you were hesitant to take medication. Is that correct? That
Yeah.
you
No.
wanted to find a route. Yeah,
Well,
are you open to talking
it's
about that?
Yeah, I will. I'm actually on medication now. I'll tell you. It's because I didn't. It's because I. Again, it's because I didn't know enough about medication, and of course, I had my views on. When you hear mental health medication, antidepressants, you automatically like, "Oh my God, like I don't need those." Like it doesn't have a nice connotation to it, right? Then I
Yeah.
took them, and then I realized I was like, actually, I want to find more natural ways because I realized I had, I could find that piece by doing other things as well.
Yeah.
Now I'm back on SSRIs, and what I didn't realize is also they are used for treating OCD. And I have
Mm.
OCD, as I say in the book, and my OCD has been triggered over the last 8 months or so. It's been crazy naturally because I've
Yeah.
been writing this book. So, and I've done it all, right? I've done psychiatry workbooks, all of this. And eventually I went to my therapist and I was like, I just want to speak to a psychiatrist because maybe at this point I need meds to control the OCD. And she's like, "No, 100% go and do it." And I went to the
Yeah.
psychiatrist and she said, "Yeah, at this point, maybe do take medication again." And the reason I was able to do it now is because I realized that sometimes you can do as much work as you want, but sometimes you just need that little helping hand. And taking
Yeah.
meds is not a cop out. It's not weak. It's not a numbness. It's actually it's a resource that I see. It's there. It's available for us. So don't be ashamed or afraid to take it.
Yeah, I remember having this conversation with a friend. I had been trying to tell her that, SSRIs really helped my anxiety also, along with my depression. And my friend also has severe anxiety. And finally, years later, when she got around to taking them, she was like, I see it differently now. She sort of thought of it as like something that would magically fix all her problems. But she's like, it's
For
actually more
sure.
like a supplement. It's like the same way you take a vitamin supplement. It's just a serotonin supplement. I know it's not
Exactly.
technically
Exactly.
that, but it acts
I'm going
like
to show.
that.
I'm going to show you something. Keep talking. I can hear you, but I'm going to get something for
Yeah.
you. Um,
Yeah,
it's
but that I
exactly
had
what you.
no, go ahead.
Yeah. No. Keep going. Keep going. It's exactly what you're saying.
No, I had the same experience with medication in that I was on it and then I got off of it because I found other ways to deal with it, through therapy. And then when the lockdown happened, all of those avenues to manage my mental health outside of medication were completely not an option anymore. Because you can't go out and meet people, you can't do something new and exciting, you can't necessarily, go to the gym. And so then
Yeah.
I had to get back on medication also.
For
So I
sure.
feel like, as you said, you have a whole section on being
Yeah.
flexible.
I
You
think
have to be willing to say that, yeah, you might get off of it for a while, you might get back on it
you
for a
might
while,
get
and
back
there's
on with it.
no, yeah,
There's no rule, and like I like what you said about supplements, and I'll show you. Like for example, okay, here is a prebiotic that I take. Prebiotic and
okay,
probiotics are for gut health, right?
yeah,
I take that. This is something called biotin, which is for the skin and the hair and the nails to keep
okay,
that strong.
yeah,
And then here's my fluoxetine Prozac for my OCD. I
same
view
thing,
all
same
three of them as the
category.
exact same thing, no different, right?
Yeah,
It's all for my one is for my gut, one is for my skin, and one of them's for my mind. So
yeah,
if you
and
start viewing it like that as a supplement, like you said, I think it can take away some of that stigma for it. It says, what is this? It says fluoxetine, 20 milligram, general for Prozac, take one a day. Now, the
yeah,
only difference between these two is that one looks like it's been prescribed, which it has,
yeah,
and one has been bought off the shelf. But
yeah,
I think that's the kind of thing when people see things in a prescription bottle like this, it automatically gives connotations like, oh, these are medicine, we must be crazy, this
yeah.
or that kind of thing. When you just got to view it, like you said,
And
as a
like a
supplement.
fun thing that I realized or I learned about later was that, sorry, I had a moment where I was like, I'm looking at you here and I'm also looking at you here. And I was like, what's happening?
No, no, that's
My
okay. In
brain is
fact,
glitching.
I haven't taken these today, so I'll take them now.
Do it.
Yeah.
Um, what is the thing about medication? Yeah, so painkillers actually, they don't take away the pain in the part of the body that is in pain. It just blocks the pain receptors in your head. So when people ask you, like, how does the painkiller know where the pain is coming from? It doesn't. It's just blocking the receptor in your brain. And so your painkiller medication is also affecting your brain the same way that an SSRI would work on your brain. So if you're
Yeah.
open to taking an ibuprofen, then what's the difference?
No difference. And I think what you also said, that you said your friend who was taking it as well, which is one thing to remember though, is that these things are not going to solve, for example, a painkiller does not fix the bruise.
Yeah.
Similarly, these antidepressants, SSRIs, whatever they are not going to magically take away the problems that are causing you to feel the thing in the first place. They're just going to help you weather the storm. So let's also not think that this is a magic fix to everything, because what happened for me is that these, I was told, could reduce my OCD by, I think it was like 40 to 60%. So when I first started taking them, I was like, I have a body that's very receptive to medicine, that I can pick it up very quickly. So I was feeling, oh my God, like I'm feeling loose, like the thoughts are like I'm easy, and I'm not jumping into compulsions. But then the OCD came back, and my first thought was, why the hell is it back? I'm taking these medicine, and I have to remind myself, I was like, this is not to cure your OCD, it's just to help you manage it.
Yeah.
So that's a thing I think for people to remember. If they take medication, it's not some magic fix to what's happening. The other thing to also remember is that, and this again, I don't want to say this from a clinical point of view, I'd say everyone do your own research. But what I was told is that it's also, after you start taking anything, it takes about 6 weeks to actually start seeing results, because it takes about 6 weeks for it to absorb in the system and for the system to kind of start taking it. So again, like
Yeah.
Don't take it and expect like in 2 days to be magically like, oh my God, like you might
My
feel
life
an
is perfect.
initial,
Yeah.
and then be disheartened when you feel like, oh, well, this hasn't worked, kind of thing. It's a process.
Yeah. And I also liked that you used the comparisons in the book to physical ailments. Like I've used that analogy also in the past where I've said, if your bone is broken, it can heal without a cast, but it's going to heal better and faster, and it's going to be more comfortable for you if you wear a cast. And so my SSRIs are just my cast for while I'm doing the work in therapy and elsewhere. It's just a support system. And I really loved all of the analogies that you use, that if you have a fever, it's in your body. If you have OCD, it's still a part of your body. It's
It's
still a
just,
part of you.
it's yeah, like it's weird. Like I get the I get where a lot of these self-help books will tell you like you are not your mind, right? And
But
everything, and they always try and make the mind out to be this like enemy.
yeah,
Problem is the mind is not an enemy. It's there to do a specific job. We just use it in the wrong way, right? And when people say you are not your mind, yeah, I get what you mean. You're not your mind. Like, for example, you don't have to go through with every thought. You choose your behavior, right? But come on, like let's say that we are souls. Okay, that's what we are. We're a soul, or whatever you want to call it. People have different things. Well, I believe I'm a soul. Well, I happen to be a soul in this lifetime on planet Earth, occupying a human body. One of the things the human body has is something called a mind. One of the things a mind does is give thoughts. And one thing that exists in this lifetime is a condition called OCD, which my mind happens to have. Now, that mind is in the body that I also happen to be in. Therefore,
yeah,
it's a part of me. It's my mind. I have to deal with it, kind of thing. Maybe in my next life, I'll be reborn on some other planet somewhere where on that lifetime, souls don't occupy human bodies. Maybe
yeah,
and if that's the case, then that's the case. Then in that lifetime, I'll occupy that. But in this lifetime, all of us occupy a body, and
yeah,
everybody has something called a mind. And the mind's job is to give thoughts. It's not the mind's job to choose what thoughts to give. Therefore, trying to fight it, being like you're not your mind, I do understand that philosophy, but I also think it's a little bit dangerous where they're like, you
yeah,
are not your mind. No, it's a part of you, so accept it that
yeah.
we all have it, kind of thing.
You can't separate yourself from it. Actually, on this note, I have a slightly fun question. What is the most bullshit advice you've ever read or heard or been given about your mental health? Because I have a whole list.
I mean, I think the most bullshit, it's not even advice. I think it's some of the comments, and these like hurt the most, is like when I started doing my Consider This series, and then that was open and vulnerable about what I was going through. I
Yeah.
get messages from some people being like, who the fuck are you to talk about mental health when your father has ruined the mental health of many people in the country? And I'm just like, I was like, oh God, like, you don't really know what to say to that, right? There's nothing you can say to that. And I think that was like, kind of like, I'm trying to do something good here. Like, can't we
Yeah.
respect that? You don't like him, go
Yeah.
and tell him that. Like, I'm trying to just let's look at this for what it is. Like, I'm trying to do something good here. But I think that's kind of been like one of the most painful kind of thing.
Yeah. Also, both
And
of you are two different people who have two different lives. And this random correlation to you and your life and somebody else's business and the complications there it's not at all the same thing. It's like it's comparing to I think it's an incredibly unfair comparison. And I've seen some of your Instagram lives, and I've seen some of the troll comments, and especially the ones that are in Hindi. I don't know, do you speak Hindi?
thankfully not.
Yeah, because
Although
some of those comments are
although one of the
horrible.
words that I've learned over the last year is chor, CHOR, which I believe means thief.
Yeah,
I've,
yeah,
I've had that, so I had to learn that one because I kept seeing it pop up, and
yeah,
I'm like, chor, okay.
yeah. So I've seen a lot of that, and it's horrible to me. I mean, I've had some trolling, and you want to troll me, fine, for what I've done or for what I haven't done, that's a different thing. But to
So
troll
yeah,
somebody for the actions of, or the lack of actions, or whatever the impression might be of somebody else, makes
it's
zero sense.
stupid. It's like
Yeah.
I'm so happy you said that, because I said this the other day to a journalist. They're like, "What about the reaction of the book?" I said, "Here's the truth. This book is art, right? Literature is art, which means it's subjective. I've
Yeah.
had people message me saying, 'Thank you so much for writing this book. It's the most amazing thing ever. You've really helped me.' I've had one person message me saying, 'This book is a load of shit, waste of money. It's rich boy problems.' Guess what, Urvashi? Both those people are correct. Neither of them are wrong, because it's subjective. Both of them are correct in their
I
own way.
wouldn't go
Both
so
of them are
far
okay.
as
But
to
I'll tell
say
you,
correct.
no. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you is
They're-
that
yeah.
because it's art. So I don't mind people not liking the book because they don't resonate with it. That's what I mean. That person is correct. If they think, look, there's nothing in this book that resonates with me, I don't like it, you're correct to think that. So if you
Yeah.
don't like the book for the book, that's fine. If you don't like
Yeah.
me for me, that's fine. But
Yeah.
don't not like the book because you happen to not like someone else that I happen to be related to. Like, that's where
Yeah.
it's like, come on.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of, I mentioned in one of the
Oh, you frozen. What's happened here? Hello? Hello? Are you back?
Sorry, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
The internet was being weird. Um, I lost my train of thought.
We were
You were talking
talking
about
about
someone
trolling.
that you're related to and not liking things that someone else has put out. Yes, okay, I was coming to trolling, and you've written a whole section about it. And I feel like, again, it's very easy for people to say, just let it go, right? Like, just don't pay attention to it. But when you're receiving messages like that, every single day you wake up and someone's like, for something that you didn't even do or you didn't even say, it is not, I feel like, so okay, to give you a little bit of background, I had been running this channel quite actively for several years, and then I realized over time that a lot of the comments were either, you suck, nobody cares, delete everything,
Do you know what the
or
funniest thing is? Can I just say one thing? Can I just say one thing on that? Is that I love the messages when people are like, fuck off, nobody cares. Because it's like, well, clearly you care
you
enough. You've
care.
left that message. So
Exactly.
what are you talking about? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
You have taken the time to log on, create a YouTube account, find my profile, and actually sit
Yeah.
and type that. So clearly you care. What are you talking about?
Exactly. You are contradicting yourself. And also, thanks for increasing the engagement on my channel. But the other category were all just objectification, like, oh, nice eyebrows or whatever. And I realized that people weren't really paying attention. And I told some friends that I don't want to run the channel anymore. And they kept saying, it's okay, let it go. You have to still do what you have to do. But I spoke to another fellow YouTuber, and he said, I get it. I get it. I get what it's like to wake up every single day and see a bunch of shitty comments, and you have to just go through them, right, one by one, and be like, I don't want to deal with this. You have to make the active choice to not let it affect you, when you could also be living a life where you don't have to go through that process at all.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think, right, I was like, what a blissful life it would be if I just disappeared into the jungle somewhere and went and worked at an orphanage or went and did something where why do we do this stress? But then again, it's part and parcel. You've also got to think about it, Urvashi, like how many people you're helping as well by doing what
Yeah.
you do. And I think you've got to look at that as well. And, I think it's kind of like what people don't realize, especially the trolls. And if people troll us on this, fine. I mean, maybe it's worth having a chat with them actually and asking them, getting them up and asking. Yeah, because I tell you why is that it's like what people forget is whether you're commenting on a YouTube video or an Instagram picture or something like that, there's a real fucking person behind that. And people
Yeah.
forget that and they think, oh, I'm just commenting on a picture. No, you're not. You're directly impacting a real human being behind that. And I think a lot of people forget that. And I think what happens is that, you know, you're always taught, right? I'm sure you were taught growing up that your actions have consequences, right? Taught as a kid. So if you want to do something, you're going to have the consequences. Well, now, because some dude can sit in his dark basement somewhere and abuse us, he thinks there's no consequences. Unless we're going to drive to his house and go and do something, they can do what they want consequence free. But what they forget is that there are consequences for the person who's being abused.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you also mentioned in your book that there have been times when you've responded to them and they've come back and apologized. That's happened to me also, where I've responded and I was like, "Who hurt you, bro?" And they're like, "Oh shit, I didn't even know that you would see the comment. I didn't know that you would read it." I'm like, what do you think I'm doing? Like, people assume that like there's a bot that's uploading pictures from somebody else's life. Like, what do you think is happening here? It's me and my phone reading the garbage comments that you've put out. But yeah, I think as you said, we must learn to focus on the good also. I think Instagram that way has been kinder because people can send you private messages and say, you know, confess something privately and say that this was really meaningful to me, etc., which doesn't exist on YouTube. YouTube is just, I feel like there are a lot of people who are watching and not commenting, but the ones who have horrible things to say are the only ones who are commenting.
Yeah, and the
I think
ones who have
YouTube is
horrible things
YouTube.
to say will never use their real name in their username either. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
the
And then,
telltale sign staring there. Someone who's not going to use their real name,
yeah,
who's abusing you. You're like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
But I think you've done a fantastic job of handling a lot of your trolls. I saw that you mentioned an example from your from your Instagram comments where someone said, "Oh, you look like a dog," and you said that's an insult to dogs. I actually saw that on your Instagram, and I remember laughing at it when it happened. And then when you wrote it in the book, I was like, "Oh, I guess slow clap to dealing with the
God,
trolls."
there's been so many like that. Like, so there's been some just outright vicious ones, but then there's been some really weird ones as well. Like, weird as well, where it's like, it's a half abuse, it's not a full abuse. And I'm like, if you're gonna do it, go the whole way. Like, just like, what is this?
What is this
Like,
non-committal? Are you willing to share an
yeah.
example?
Oh God, like, I try to think. There's been some just like weird ones where people are like, you look like a girl. Did your parents adopt? You're adopted. You look adopted, like stuff like that. And I'm like, where do you come up with this stuff? Like, what? Okay, great.
Have
Okay,
you
yes.
seen the Jimmy Kimmel, I think, did a series of like where celebrities read out the mean tweets?
Well, I did that. Did you never see I did a series called Sid Sessions about 6 years ago where I did the same thing,
Really?
where I read out the messages. I did an entire one episode was dedicated to all the messages that I got saying that I was gay, which is not a problem, which is not a problem at all. Like, you know, I mean, I'm I'm open to everything. What I found funny was I didn't take an insult to being called gay because I don't think it's insulting. My best friend is gay. Like, there's nothing insulting about that. What I found funny was the reasoning as to why people would think it, why they would say it. It'd be like,
Exactly.
you're
That's the
gay
part that
because you
gets me.
look like this. And I'm like, what do you mean look like? What do you mean look like? It's like, where is this coming from?
Exactly. That's the one thing that always gets me about homophobic comments is that, you know, okay, insult my appearance if you want, insult the things that I'm saying, but to make such a random association between two things that have nothing to do with each other is amazing. It's like, oh, you take a shower like 3 times a week as a man, you must be gay.
Mm-mm.
What? I like to be clean. Yeah, homophobia is a whole other topic. Let's not go there. I have a lot of thoughts and
Yeah.
opinions about it. We have also diverted completely from the planned questions that I had, Sid. So we're going to backtrack a little bit. Um, how and when did you decide to publicly start talking about this? Because there's so much. I feel like every family has so much pride about, like, you know, log kya kahenge, what will people say, and your family's been in the spotlight for so many years, and then to come out and, you know, start talking about your personal journey.
Yeah.
How did you even decide to do that?
So, you know, I stopped drinking 3 years ago, and on the 1 year anniversary of when I stopped, I put up a brief Instagram post being like, hey, everyone, 1 year since I stopped drinking, da, 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 da. And the reason I stopped is because whether I'd have 1 drink or 10 drinks, I'd get anxiety the next day. It was never an alcoholic, but something. And I got thousands of messages back. A lot of people in India being like, oh my God, we feel the same way as you. We can relate to you. Thank you so much for sharing. If you can stop drinking, coming from the background that you do, so can we. Thank you very much. And I was like, oh shit, like, okay, well, if I was able to have such a response from just sharing an Instagram story, maybe I can continue like helping people from talking about my mental issues. And that's when I started doing that Consider This series. And I was like, look, the idea here is not to be preachy, but just to tell you what I've gone through. Maybe it helps you, maybe it doesn't. And the thing was a huge hit, like it blew up. And then I was like, and then I think you feel like, you know, when you feel like you have a following, and I'm sure you feel this as well with the following that you've amassed, is I love using, I'm going to quote Spider-Man of all things, is that when it says with great power, comes great responsibility, like, which is true, but it's, so it's like, well, hang on a second, like if I'm able to help so many people, you just kind of feel like I have a duty now to continue doing whatever I can. And the book was the next logical thing. So, you know, I asked a few people around, and Westland came straight to me and said, we'd love to publish this. And fortunately, they gave me the platform to continue my story.
Do people ever confuse you with an actual therapist? Because I sometimes get messages saying, how to recover from depression.
Yeah, all the time.
I don't know.
The time.
I'm not a trained mental health professional.
Yeah, all the time. And I try and be very careful when I reply back. And I do make it a point to say that, look, I think you should speak to a professional. This is what worked for me. It might not work for you. But I think a lot of the time, though, people just, you know, the reason they ask us is not because they really want, they just want some comfort, that someone's talking to them being like, you know what, don't worry, I've been through it as well. You'll come out of this. Like, or if you don't, like, it's okay. Like, don't worry about what you're going through. I think that's what people just want to hear. They want that comfort, right?
Yeah, for me, it was back in the day. It was Deepika Padukone when she came out with her, you know, announcement around her foundation and her experience with mental health. I think that was the first time that I thought to myself that maybe I could go and see someone about how I was feeling. Because until then, I had just been brute forcing it. Right, I was like, if I achieve this goal, then the depression will go away. If I do this, if I do that, if I move countries, if I switch jobs. And I had done so many of those things. And I got to the point where I was like, why do I still feel awful? And then I saw her talk about it. And I was like, if this person who's living my dream life can feel the same way as I'm feeling now, then maybe it's okay. And I think that you've done that for a lot of people.
Well, I hope so. And I think that, you know, whether it's Deepika, whether it's anyone who has a platform, who's used their platform for good, I think we've got to commend them, right? Because, you know, just by her inspiring you, she's done the work, she's made the world a better place. And I think we've also got to remember, like, people like her, first of all, she had everything against her, right? When making this announcement. She's in India. She's in India, in a country that doesn't acknowledge mental health. She's a woman. And whether we like to accept it or not, India is still a vastly sexist country. And she was at the top of her game. And had everything to lose, yet she still had the guts to come out and say, you know what, despite all of these obstacles, I'm going to live my truth. I'm going to share my truth, and I'm going to help people. And, you know, we got to applaud people like her. And honestly, her greatest contribution to society might not be the 50 films and the awards and the box office that she's done. It might be coming out and talking about depression. And that's and you've got to give credit to people like her. That despite the odds, they came out and they do it. There are so many people who have the opportunity to make the world a better place, but they're so interested in their own image that they don't do it. So when someone like her comes out and does something like that, they need to be applauded for it.
And I applaud you for that, because at a time when it has been so difficult living with, you know, the last name that you have and all of the drama that's going on in the news, like, I would have thought that this is the time that you would, or if I was in your place, like, deactivate everything and like move to the jungle and never come out again. And at a time like that, you've chosen to do the exact opposite thing. So thank you. It takes a lot for someone to do that, given
Oh
everything
no,
that's happening
no,
in your
I
life.
appreciate it, and it's doing sessions like this and talking to people like you that make it all worthwhile because it's knowing that there are, of course, there's going to be trolls, of course, there's going to be haters for everything you do in life, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think I always use the example of I love watching the Indian cricket team. Like, you have players like Virat Kohli and everything who one day is hero of the century, but he gets out for a duck in a match and suddenly people are burning his house down.
Burning
And it's like,
effigies. Yeah.
what are you talking about? Like, this is the same guy who yesterday was the greatest batsman of his generation, one bad score, and suddenly, he should be
Yeah.
dropped. He's useless. He's this. And it's like,
Yeah. And just, I would like to quote the immortal words of Taylor Swift: haters gonna hate, 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 hate. I had another question on my list because we only have 20 minutes left, and I want to come back to the list a little bit. As much as I have enjoyed chatting, I know I can't keep you here forever. You
no,
have
we can
talked
do
about,
another one if you want. We can do these as often as you want. I like, anytime I get a chance to talk to someone
yeah,
like yourself, I'm happy to do it. So have me on again.
excellent. We shall do that.
Yeah.
But coming back to this a bit, you mentioned the response to your post about the 1 year of you not having had any alcohol and the reaction that you got to that. OCD is barely talked about. I mean, depression and anxiety now more so than it was 5 years ago. How has the response been to you talking about OCD? I feel like there's really nobody who's well known talking about it.
Well, I think that one thing that's been quite nice. I wrote this in the book, right? One thing that's been quite good is that it is a niche kind of thing, right? But I think what's been like nice is that getting messages from people being like, "Oh my God, we used to do the exact same thing when we were kids, and we didn't know what it was. So thank you." And I think
Yeah.
that's been the biggest like takeaway from me is that, and I want to do more to do with OCD because I I just think that it's so misunderstood, and it's one of those things. It's a term that's just thrown around so much that it loses the importance it actually is.
Yep.
And that's my next kind of big task. I'd set up this. It's registered. I have this foundation that's going to set up out of Bangalore called the Nama Foundation, and it was
Okay.
originally going to be based on helping people who wanted to stop drinking.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm actually thinking I can be a part of it, but I'm thinking of trying to move more into the realm of OCD and anxiety sort of.
Yeah.
Because anxiety is another thing, right? Anxiety is something that we all experience. But generalized anxiety is a proper clinical condition. And I think that all of these things are on the same spectrum, right? And I think that
Yeah.
it's just about raising awareness to, it's not just a joke kind of thing.
Yeah. And there is so much overlap with anxiety. I don't have OCD, but some of the things that you talked about in terms of needing things to be done a certain number of times, I've done that since I was a kid, and it hasn't gotten in the way for me for it to be diagnosed as a disorder. But I feel like there's so much more to anxiety, to OCD that we don't even know about because you're never really given the chance to think that it could be a problem. Like I sometimes have to do things in multiples of five, or something has to be an even number, and I can't. Yeah, there are lots of little things like that, and I feel like we should talk about it more because there might be people who have no idea that they can get help
For
for it.
sure. Yeah, but I think it's also kind of one of those things where it's like, is that multiple of five really getting in your way? If it's not causing you a problem, then it's kind of like if they
Yeah,
say if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing.
yeah.
But when
I
it
mean,
when it
that's
becomes
where
a
I
problem, it's
am.
like
Yeah,
when it comes to a problem when it's like if I don't do this in multiples of five, something bad's gonna happen. That's when
yeah,
it gets to a point where it's like, and what I think people don't understand is that thought of what could go wrong if you don't do it in multiples of five is
yeah,
so loud and so painful that even though
yeah,
on a logical level that it's not going to change anything, you
yeah,
feel compelled you have to do it.
yeah. I think that's what I learned when I read your bit about OCD was that I thought that maybe it was getting in the way, but then when I read about the extent to which you mentioned that there is this fear that has to be addressed with these compulsions, and then it's a whole series of things that happen one after the other. That's when I realized that there is a big difference between having a weird little idiosyncrasy and actually having a disorder. Yeah, it's a huge difference. Um, I have more questions. Oh, I loved your whole bit about being flexible because I'm a very high strung person, and I think my anxiety is part of the problem there, where I need to overplan everything and everything has to go according to plan. And if it doesn't go according to plan, I'm going to have a meltdown. And it was really hard for me when I moved back from the US to India and nothing worked on time and nothing went the way that you wanted it to. So, even your bit about moving to India for those few years, I resonated with that a lot. Do you have any words of wisdom for people like me who have such a hard time being
God, it's
flexible?
hard. It is hard. It is hard, but it's like, so I'm a slightly different flexibility. I'm not a planner in that everything has to go to plan. I'm more with myself, like I have to be a certain way.
Mm,
And I think it's just about you can have a plan and be flexible. I don't think it's not polar, right? It's not black or white. It's not one or the other. It's like you have a plan of how you wanted this session to go. And then I say something, you say something, and it takes a different turn. So you're flexible and you
yeah,
change it, and
yeah.
I think that's the thing is that you can still have your plan. You don't have to not have your plan. You can still plan how you want your day to go, but then be open to the possibility of change. And
Yeah.
if something changes and you don't do something that you had originally planned, or if you do something extra that wasn't originally planned, you don't see that as a failure. You just see it as the way that the day panned out.
Someday I will be able to accept and internalize this
No.
wisdom.
It's look. I'm talking here. It's much easier to talk about these things and to embrace it. And I'm definitely flexibility is something that is I'm still working on majorly.
I loved your whole comparison to jazz and acting and
Yeah.
being flexible, like, because I'm an actor also, and I feel like there has been so much overlap between what I've learned in therapy and what I've learned in workshops. It's incredible. I sometimes feel like people should do acting workshops just as a therapeutic exercise, and I'm so glad that drama therapy exists as an option. Have you heard of the Navarasas? So these are
Uh,
derived from traditional Indian dance forms. So it's the 9
okay. Yes. Of
emotions
course.
that performing artists should be able to evoke from the audience. So I did a workshop where we had to explore
Yeah.
each of the,
Keep talking. I'm gonna
yeah,
get something. Yeah.
sure. Each of
Yeah.
the rasas we had to go through. So it's like the excitement and wonder and anger, pride, disgust, fear, sadness, things like that. And it taught me so much about myself, about emotions that I had been uncomfortable with and I didn't even know. There were emotions that I knew I was uncomfortable with. There were emotions that came too easily to me. Yeah, I see the book that you're holding. Is it the
So I
Nine
think it's
Navarasas?
so. This book was written by a guy, psychophysical acting, a guy from Minnesota who actually went to. I think he went to Kerala and learned all of this stuff.
Yes, with Venu Ji, who is the master practitioner of this Navarasa exploration. So I
Yeah.
learned from
So.
somebody who learned from the guy in Kerala.
Mm,
You should try it. I would highly recommend it. It's a fantastic exercise if you ever get the chance to do it.
okay.
I just suddenly remembered, by the way, my Twitter handle is Kingfisher on tap. So I feel
I
like
saw
I
that.
should,
Yeah,
yes,
I saw that, and I was like, oh, okay, yes. Yeah.
yeah, deeply grateful to the UB enterprise for
You
giving
could
me my
probably,
love of beer.
you could probably sell that Twitter handle for a lot of money.
Could I? I'm not. I'm never going to sell it. It's mine
No.
forever.
I think I know, but I think it's stuff like that, right? People always want.
Yeah. Um, in your book, you mentioned that parts of the book were really difficult to write and that the whole exercise was quite taxing. Would you want to write another book? What were some of the hard parts of writing this book?
I think I'll write another one if I have something meaningful to contribute, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not going to write another one just for the sake of having another book because this one did well. If I
Yeah.
can, if I know where I can go next to help and
Mhm.
contribute, then I'll write another one for sure.
Okay.
But
But
I need
you'd
to
want
figure
it to
that
have,
out. Yeah, well, I need to figure out where that is right now. That book. I think I'm still, I'm still caught up in this one with all the promotion, and I think I need a while to kind of like let go and figure out, okay, where would the next one take me? Like, is it more of my journey? Is it a follow-up to this? Is it new? Is it maybe I just do another version of this, you know, like in a year's time, it's kind of like an extended version of what we've currently got. I don't know. It would have to be, I'd have to see what people want, and kind of also see where I am on the journey at that point as well, to where I could really add the most value.
Slightly unrelated question. Is that an Avengers poster behind you?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a print of them. They're all sitting on a thing eating. It's like, it's a famous, I think it's like workers in Brooklyn, and then they all
Oh, yeah, that photograph.
you know, and then there's this one as well. I see if I can, I don't know, can you turn the camera around on this?
I don't know, actually. Because I'm on a
Anyway,
laptop.
if you can see this, there's the one behind me as well, which is
the Last Supper.
With all of
Excellent.
all
But is that the DC characters?
all of them
No.
mixed. You got
Everybody.
Captain America, Flash,
some would call this
Hulk.
blasphemy.
Well, I mean, I'd say that the picture is probably blasphemy, right? I mean, it's the Last Supper. They've replaced Jesus Christ with Superman. So I think the whole thing
I'm talking about the Marvel supremacy, the Marvel family junkies. Yeah. But oh my God. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left. I'm going to look through the comments and see if there are any interesting questions.
Do we have people? Do we have a lot of people watching this? Are there people?
41 at the moment.
Oh, can I just say then to all of you who are watching this, I know it's late in India, or wherever you are in the world joining. It is a Sunday as well. So thanks. I appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Most of these people are just talking to each other. This is amazing. Cool.
Nice.
I'm so glad that you all are having a good time. Somebody has said, what is King? Oh, I love Kingfisher. Okay, we have some Kingfisher fans. Okay, I don't think there's anything super interesting in here. Any final thoughts that you'd like to
I just say that, you know, today is World Mental Health Day, right? And it's great that there's a day like this a year, but you know, I mean, it's if we really want to keep doing our thing to end the stigma, we got to treat every day as World Mental Health Day, not just the 10th of October every year.
Yeah.
And you know, I think it's up to all of us we all have a part to play in shining a light on mental health. You don't have to have a YouTube channel. You don't have to have written a book. You don't have to have done anything. You don't have to have a platform like Deepika did. Everyone has a part to play in just making the people around them feel supported. And that's all we have to do is just, and you don't have to do any, the best part is you don't have to do anything to do that. You just have to let people know that, hey, I'm here for you if you need me. Whatever you're going through, it's okay. If you need me, I'm here. And if you want to talk. And I think just by, you know, helping people feel supported like that, we can end the stigma or work towards ending the stigma.
Yeah,
that still surrounds mental health.
Do you have any recommended reading or any TV shows or movies that you watched that impacted your view of mental health?
Yeah, well, I know this is going to be a strange one, but there was a show called 13 Reasons Why on Netflix.
Haven't seen it.
But have you heard of it?
I've heard of it, but I deliberately haven't watched it.
I just fell in love with the characters, and like I was 4 seasons, I think. I don't know. I really connected to the show. One thing that was interesting in the first season is basically it's about a girl who commits suicide, right? And leaves 13 reasons as to why she died. To 13 people who contributed to her feeling the way. And what was interesting when the first season came out, a couple of the reasons, I remember talking to people and they were like, but that doesn't seem like so bad, like what they were doing to her. Like when we were growing up, people would do worse things. And I was like, my big learning from that was like, look, what might not feel like it's a big deal to you might be a huge deal to someone else. So be very careful how you use your words. Just because something might not offend you or upset you, it doesn't mean it's not going to offend or upset someone else.
Yeah.
The second thing that I learned from that is that maybe if that girl on that show had gone through 1, 2, 3 things, whatever, but maybe it was that 13th thing that the person did that tipped her over. And when you act a certain way to someone, you might think it's just like nothing important, but you don't know how many things have happened to them that day or that month or that year before you've done your thing, and your thing could be the last thing that tips them. So we've got to be mindful of that even the smallest actions that we take, and even the most throwaway kind of comments that we make that we might not think would be important to us, might have a bigger impact on other people.
Yeah.
So I think that show really opened my eyes up to that, to show that, just we need to be careful about everyone.
Yeah.
And how we behave and act. So that from that point of view was a great show to highlight the importance of mental health. I know it was a very controversial show because there were things in it that I think they shouldn't have shown, and then now if you go on Netflix, they've taken certain scenes out, this and that. But I think the message from that show is, you don't know what that person's been through already when you say what you're saying. So be mindful of that.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons I've been afraid to watch it is because I've been suicidal for many years, and I just don't think I'm ready yet to watch a show about someone going through that experience. But what really, really helped me was BoJack Horseman. Have you seen it?
I've never seen BoJack Horseman, but I know, I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I highly, highly recommend it, because I think for me, what happened was that I used to be really judgmental about myself, and the fact that I couldn't, take control of my mind, for lack of a better term, is how I used to feel. And I used to feel that people were judging me because I was a mess and things like that. And then when I watched the show and I watched this character go through, one difficult mental health episode after another, it was the first time I saw this flawed character, and I watched it with compassion, and I felt like that must be really hard to go through. And that was the first time I thought, oh, maybe that's how my friends see me. Maybe they're not judging me. Maybe they see me as someone who's just going through a lot. And it really helped me forgive myself. It's a show that I go back to often and there are some gems in there, especially about running. There's quotes in there about running.
It's so amazing that you said that. And I think this comes back to how we started this conversation. There's always help to be found in this. You took inspiration from a talking cartoon horse. Yes. Basically. I mean, that's what it is. It's a talking cartoon horse that doesn't even exist. Right? And you were able to find inspiration from that. Therefore, there is always help and inspiration to be found in everything around us. We quoted Spider-Man in this, right? So what I mean is that there's these gems and these nuggets that we can resonate with are always around us.
Yeah. And my mom used to think I was losing my mind because she would walk past me, and on the screen is like a bunch of cartoon animals talking to each other, and I'm just like weeping, having this whole like life moment, and she's like, should I be concerned for my child? Because as you said, it's such a surreal thing to be watching a cartoon and get such a deep moment of realization for yourself from it. It's great. Highly recommend if you ever want to watch it. All right, we're at 58 minutes. So I will let you go. But thank you so much. And I am very open to doing more of these, because I feel like I have a lot more common ground that I found with the book that you've written that I'd love to talk about. But it's all too much for one.
Well, maybe we could do a follow-up in the next.
Once your PR schedule is a little more breathable. I can
you're in touch. You're in touch with me. You're in touch with, I think, Shweta as well. So just let us know. Happy to do it. Happy to do things like this. And thank you for taking the time to do this as well. It's thank you for giving me the platform and the opportunity to talk more about mental health. And thank you to all your viewers who tuned in for this. As I said, it's quite a heavy topic to tune into at 2 minutes to 10 on a Sunday night in India. So thank you very much.
This is the point that everyone is thinking about this, Sunday night before Monday morning. This is when you're thinking about this kind of stuff anyway.
Yeah, but no, I think it's very easy at this point to switch off. So I'm glad, really thank you to everyone who joined in. The only downside of doing these sorts of interviews is that I can't see the people on the other side. But know that you are seen, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate you, Urvashi. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And to everybody who's watching, this is available on Amazon. If I'm honest, there will be a link in the description so you can buy that there. And as Sid said, this is cheaper than a McDonald's hash brown price.
It's
That's
also
the
available in
exact.
bookshops. It's also in bookshops across India as well, so you can get
Yeah,
it there.
it is. And
All right.
hopefully at some point in my life, I will get you to sign this.
100%. If I'm in
If you're
India
ever
for some
in,
parts, I will definitely do that.
yeah, that would be excellent. Thank you so much. Happy
All right.
rest of Sunday to you because you
Thank
have
you, and
the
you.
rest of the day to go.
Yeah.
Thank
Have a
you
good
so
night. Thanks,
much.
Urvashi.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 All right, thank you everybody for joining. That was Siddhartha Mallya. This video will obviously be available on my channel, so you can share it, send it to people, come back and look at it again. The link to the book will be in the description below. And yeah, thanks to all the people in the comments who were just talking to each other. Like, I'm glad you all had a good time, I think, talking to each other. But yes, thank you all and good night. Good night if you're in India. Good day if you're anywhere else. Bye.